Hey everyone, I'm Tassinix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming. This time we're covering the preview for the upcoming Season 58 3 versus 3 Grand Arena Championship. I am joined, that's for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, by the way. Forgot to mention. I am joined by my regular co hosts, Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal. And of course, it's been a little bit, but we like to try and get these in for the in between, episodes. We have another special guest. It's Cyruss, one of the largest accounts in the game. Yes, yes, yes. Cheers, adulation, applause, woo, kazoos,
Welcome.
all of it. But one of the largest accounts in the game, but it's not enough that he's just large. He actually knows how to pilot that thing. One of the top players in the game. Always a dangerous opponent every time I fight him. You win some, you lose some. I think I mostly lose them. But I know most of us have had some experience fighting this gentleman. And it's such a pleasure to actually have you with us on the show. How are you, Cyruss?
Thanks so much, Tass. It's a pleasure to be on with some fellow guildmates and some other big brains, and I look forward to kind of talking about some GAC with all of you.
It's going to be a good time.
Can I also add in the guy's also the TW officer, TB officer, everything officer, get your 600 officer.
Well, you're
officer, raid officer. I don't know whatever else there is, but the officer is there, and this dude's doing the work.
It's true.
So
it's true.
I leave some of that to Boomer, but I do most of it.
No, that's if you're not in the right channel. Boomer's there to tell you if you're in the wrong channel. The rest of it's
you. I always refer Boomer to COVID General just because it's funny.
Yeah.
Jeez. Well, anyway, it's such a pleasure to have you on. How's everybody else doing? How the rest of you guys?
Doing great after a relatively quiet Swuggo week, at least certainly on the GAC front. So glad to be here. You guys, I know most of you guys, except for Fatal, and I know Cyruss, lovingly as a guildie. I'm more familiar with Cyruss as a daunting brick wall in GAC. So I'm excited to get a chance to pick his brain and just talk about the game. So glad to be here, man.
Yeah, I think Cyruss is one of my most rematched opponents. It's like easily top 5 or top 3, if not.
Yeah, I was just saying, I'm mostly happy that I don't get a lot of DMs from him because that would mean that I am in trouble as a guildmate. And I think I've only had the privilege of being pile driven by him once in GAC.
I think I faced you the least of everyone here, Dagger.
No. I think I've never faced you, buddy. We've actually never gone heads up. I'm just not cool enough to be up there. I've never faced him.
I have faced you, TJ, but I play on other accounts.
This fucking guy.
I got him!
So what's funny enough about that, I was going to wait for the joke on it, but I don't know if Cyruss remembers this conversation about him not being the original owner for his account. That's not good enough for one of our old guild mates who's no longer in the game. But Cyruss is whooping his ass, but he had to comment because it's not good enough because he's not a day one player. So Cyruss, I just want to make sure I rein you in a little bit. You're not the best just because you have every single thing and literally Omicron Datacross and your mod score beats people's general score. You're also not in a day one player, so obviously you're not as good.
Yeah. Everyone who's not in Chromium does get to miss out on the depression that is about once a month or so. Cyruss will run his rate, and you look at it and just see that it's like double his mod rating is like 1.5 times my actual rating.
There's not even a close range. There's just fucking it's literally just the thing of like the stuff of legends, and you look at it.
Just massive. Well, anyways, we've got a good bit to go through here. First, of course, let's go ahead and focus on our guest. Welcome, Cyruss. First, the credentials. Tell us a little about yourself and, your account, your GAC rank, if you had to give a couple sentences to the folks about what you're about in this game, tell us.
So I started playing Swogo in March of 2021, so I'm a pretty new player, I would say.
Oh, wow,
I started basically in Mighty Chlorians, which is kind of a feeder guild into the Maw ecosystem. I knew Gugek, who's the Maw guild lead. He kind of brought me up into these things, and I did take over an account in middle of 2022. It was kind of a middle of the. I would say that it was an account that could regularly get in the top 20 of GAC, but it wasn't like super optimized at the time. It was piloted for several years. It used to be a whale account, but it had basically kind of languished. And then I took it over, and I've spent quite a bit on that account. And I would say GAC is something that, it's love and hate at times. It's something that I recently have kind of been taking a little bit of a backseat to some of my other duties in MAW, but it's something I do still put a lot of time into every cycle, just trying to keep up with all of you guys at the top here and trying to make sure I don't lose any of my free wins from being in the top 20 from the Erodium accounts. I gotta keep my head above water in that regard.
Can I just comment real quick to your point of you spent a little bit, Cyruss? True or false? You literally have every single character Relic 9.
That is true as of this morning. Yeah.
I just want to state for the people that don't understand this morning, the people don't understand when you say I spent a little bit, sir. A little bit is like jumping into DuckTales as you're dumping through money, talking about I spent a little bit. So I just want to clear up the air for people to understand. Here's one of the few counts. Every character is Relic 9.
Yeah, this dude isn't Scrooge McDucking into ones. He's Scrooge McDucking into hundreds.
Yes. We're talking. I spent a little bit as he's throwing out thousands and just doing it literally the meme of throwing the money in the air.
Yeah.
I just want to ask real quick though, because I've been hearing this, but this Ezra Bridger Exile is not Relic 9. So what the fuck are you all even talking?
I know. I'm slacking.
Oh, he's just trying to forget he's a
poser, a mere pretender.
For sure.
And for those of you watching this, for those of you watching this in the distant future, that character won't be out for a couple months.
Yeah. True or false, Cyrus? You have 1,000 plus 20s.
I have 1,200.
Jesus.
All right. I undershot the number. My apologies. Well, now I feel stupid.
This is consistently one of the best equipped opponents in the game. I mean, GP aside.
Yeah. Just keep in mind, I picked an absurd number, and he surpassed that by 20%.
Yeah.
You pleb.
Dangerous man indeed.
So this is actually part of the reason why I actually kind of challenged myself to play other accounts, so that I can kind of play with accounts that I think are a little bit more, representative of the average account, so that I can kind of try and stay on top of things from that regard.
Yeah, be able to understand how smaller accounts would employ their tactics against you. Yeah.
Yes, sometimes you like to spend your time with those who have less so you can appreciate what you do have.
That's right. That's right. You go camping, so when you come home, it feels like vacation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Next question, how do you balance the effort you put into TW versus GAC, and how do you feel they translate to one another?
So I used to spend a lot more on TW. I've tried to take a bit of a backseat just for time management purposes. That's partially because like some of the guys were saying here, was that I've kind of transitioned into more of kind of a semi-guild lead for MAW Chromium in the last 6 months. So I'm more involved in roster management, the raid, territory battles. So it's kind of more that sort of stuff is taking the front seat. I would say then GAC comes second, and then TW comes third. For TW, we've got Aesop running show for Chromium, so he obviously does, a vast amount of the work, as Tass has probably seen what he's doing. But I try and help on the offensive side of things. I don't mind calling counters and writing stuff up, but I'd say there is a decent translation in terms of just we obviously in territory wars, we don't get the depth we get in GAC. We don't see as many teams. We see more, there's more common things we see over and over and over. So I think there is definitely some crossover. And I think that being involved in, territory war, war room planning, it translates in some ways, especially from kind of just like a higher meta perspective.
Mm-hmm. No other comments from anybody? I don't want to leave.
This dude literally has every damn hat in the game, man. You can't call it. It's literally all officers. It's like And I remember doing it and hating it. This dude is doing all of them, like giving your thing, giving teams, giving TB, giving Ray. It's like, man, I moved to Chromium to soldier up, and this man is over here running all of the hats, and now finding out he's also running all of the GACs. This is ridiculous, man.
Just for
the level of
funsies,
effort
just for the hell of it, just to stay fresh, stay frosty.
This is crazy.
I got a question for you, Cyruss. Like, with historically you having leaned into times and TW management and on the guild front where 3v3 is not a thing, right? So how do you feel like that's shaped your perspective? Like this primarily being GAC focused as a show here, like on 3v3 versus say 5v5. Do you like sort of the stimulation of like a different dynamic with threes? Does it, is it something you're less interested in, or it just sort of feels less legitimate? Like, what's your perspective on threes versus fives here as we sort of stare a 3v3 season in the face?
Yeah, like historically, I feel like I've done pretty well at threes, but it's something that I definitely like. I always find first week I'm a little bit shakier. It's something that after first week, I usually do a lot of time just like going through the accounts I like to scout. And then I look and see, all sorts of like, their D and their offense. And then I like to really like parse the insights pages on swogo.gg to just try and find things that I wouldn't have thought of myself. I think that threes, obviously, it's more theory crafting. There's more, novelty teams, things that kind of get cooked up. I don't usually get too creative. I always say I'm not like the most creative player, but I like to execute things well. That's kind of my strength. And I'm sure from what you guys, that have faced me have seen is that I have a particular play style that I lean into quite hard most of the time. We can discuss that later, kind of what I do to try and minimize, being too typecast. But, I'm sure you guys know I play pretty efficiency styled. So threes, that can be good and can be bad. It's kind of a toss up at times.
Yeah, I mean, you can discuss it here if you want. I mean, this is your highlight. So, I mean, if you want to share more about how you like to play the game, by all means, man, dig into it.
Yeah, so like last year, like I was peaking pretty consistently, at least in fives at second. That was kind of where I was sitting, and I typically go 1 GL on defense. That's pretty typical for myself. That's how I play. I like to give myself the opportunity to really try and run up the score on offense. It used to work a little better as I had time to go second. Usually I attack first nowadays just due to my schedule for work. So it's a little bit of a drawback just based on how I play, but I still really lean into efficiency. I place one GL on D, I would say 80% of the time, and then the rest of the time I set 3. So I set kind of still a lighter board, but it's kind of to throw people off that I play, because I play the same 10 to 12 people, I would say, pretty consistently. It's pretty rare I face anyone else. So
yeah, that is the disease of this area of the game.
Yeah, and I had mentioned before about the Erodium accounts. I do appreciate that they've given a bit of a breather to myself. I'm not sure how some of you guys feel facing some of them, but I don't mind it. The only thing was when they first came out, I really hated because Kabuki and Aesop got to run up quite a lead in the skill rating, and it's something I haven't been able to escape this kind of purgatory that I would say tasks you for sure in as well. Sasha's kind of transcended it a little bit. I feel like you've probably kind of got out of it, and now you're into a bit of a higher bracket. But I've been pretty much stuck in this hell in a cell with a couple guys for a while now.
It's been treading water for some time. Yes.
So I don't know. I hope they fix it at some point, but for now I just appreciate having a bit of one match every 3 off.
That's fair. Well, you basically knocked out the one of the next questions here that we had for you, because we were just going to ask about how you feel about when you're fighting Erodiums. Is it nice to have the break? And you basically just covered that. Next one though, and I guess we can throw anything else because I know a couple of the guys. Sorry, Fatal and Sasha, if you feel, and Dagger, I guess, if you feel it all boxed out. But yeah, no, you fought some of us, at least most of us, at least once. How do you approach fighting the same people repeatedly?
Yeah, I mean, I play the player usually, but I also stick to kind of my own playbook. Like I don't like I know tendencies, I scout, I do all of kind of the things you should do to be a good player, but I also really lean into my own play style quite heavily. So there's certain people where, when I was matching against Aesop and Kabuki a lot, I would be a bit more aggressive with changing things up because those are the two guys that have had my number for the last year and a half. Aesop is someone I can beat occasionally. I actually never beat Kabuki, so that was something that I hope one day to be able to do. I've
He's a
tied him
raid
twice.
boss for you.
I tied him twice when he had higher GP than me, so I had to then R9 my entire roster.
Yeah,
So,
no, that would chat my ass.
yeah.
Twice, you
So,
said?
yeah, twice. So now I'm slightly ahead. He just R9'd his entire roster this last gifting period. So I'm not sure who's ahead right now on GP. I think I'm slightly ahead because I think Nomads is first and I'm second, and then Kabuki's third. Oh, Chiss passed me. No way. Of course he did.
There it is.
Oh my goodness.
And there's our buddy Nomads on top of
I
the
know.
heap, just doing Nomads things.
He's wailed on mods hard in the last little bit too. He's been pushing mods.
He has been going gangbusters. Yes, he's insane.
He's probably the only person in the game that I can envision catching up to me as long as I play in terms of mod score, just because he's Nomads.
So the day that the first gifting became available, he jumped in my Discord server and live streamed him at that time, taking every character in the game to Relic 9.
A true madman. I think I finished mine
Just
the next
boom.
day, but he was a trendsetter. I had to try and keep up with him.
Just boomed it out. That's our man. But yeah, guys, what other questions might you have for Cyruss? Or are we good to start digging in to the next segment? You tell me. I don't want to cut anybody off because... No.
I don't think so, but I think he covered a lot of the good things. I think juggling the hats is my biggest question. I think you nailed it pretty well, Cyruss. Just because you're like a true workhorse and savant to the game to cover so many places, but I also want to cover it out to like the raid top scores, the TB top stars. So it's not like he's not only managing the thing like, but I just want to get the perspective of also placing in one of the either the top spot or one of the top spots, right? I know you guys were bragging about that in the territory chat. Of how you guys are trying to fight the ranks, because I know we got a couple of the guys too who do it as well with you, and you guys will try to push the numbers up of who can get the best.
Yeah, well, we recently got 47 stars, which was the previous record for any go was 45. So there was a couple people that are really going hard, and I always try and compete with Chiss for waves. He's somebody that gives it his all in all game modes as well, except for he's been languishing in GAC actually for the last couple of months, but I think it's just he's been way too busy. So
it's just too busy. Yeah, that's the as you saw where he's at like GP wise, and like Nomads as well. That's just life,
yeah. They only play game modes. They only play game modes you can auto like TB and TW.
But to be fair, there's just no time for it. But they also don't really care about GAC, so they don't really put the effort. Because like Nomads would 100% be up top if Nomads wanted to actually try. But timing for him just doesn't work that way, right? Where Cyruss, I know you put the effort in every game mode, but if you don't care about it, you don't have to, right? They don't need the crystals. You don't need it. So it's like for Chiss, it's like, it's so be it. And he's still at number 2 in the game right now.
Yeah, if the rewards were slightly different, the structure, like crystals for somebody, even for myself, I don't like crystals don't mean a ton, so it's kind of something that it's more just bragging rights versus time management.
Unique currency needs to purchase something meaningful.
Exactly.
Well, he can't even get Omicrons now, as we saw the post of him maxing out all Omicrons as well. So there's that.
Granted, as Cyruss was kind of teased me about pre-show, my last couple weeks / months have not been conducive to me playing this game consistently. But I would find time to play GAC more if they had something exclusive in that store. You know, where like wins matter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
for
if
sure.
wins actually mattered, because like I'm in that like weird spot right now where like, I mean, I need the crystals, but I don't need the crystals. If that makes sense, I'm kind of on cruise control. But if I had a reason to win besides just the crystals, I would try a lot harder as opposed to just be like, all right, I went 2-0 and I have a busy Sunday. I guess I'll let it ride and just like do my one attack.
I think everybody would be doing that. I don't think
Mm.
there's any. I don't think there's any qualms about this game would look much different if they actually put an effort of giving you some kind of varied reward where there was actual meaning
Oh, yeah.
behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying from like everyone's perspective. I think like don't get me wrong, I care about winning and losing, but I also know that I have limited free time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just kind of echoing the sentiment of as one of the people who has been at the top for a while, and it's like slipping because of lack of time. I don't find myself being as motivated because there is nothing unique that I can get from winning in GAC. I just wanted to kind of add that on.
Completely fair. Yeah. All right. Well, if we're all good on this part, let's start digging into week 1. As always, preparations first. Let's talk, and this part of the show, Cyruss, it's the floor is just open. Everybody's just free to talk. So yeah, preparations. Our remods, our key relics applied. Let me see. Do I actually have that open right now? Let me go ahead and boot.
Well, while you're doing it, I'll just say right now,
go ahead.
I've been dinking around with the Great Mothers, and it turns out, like, I'm sure mods matter a little bit, but man, that data count is stupid. So
Dude.
I didn't do very much remodding.
I will have. I know it's next topic, but my thing is I will get her open and then have 2 hours to relic her up and get it. So I have her literally set to go that it drops at 11 my time. I will have 11 to 2 or whatever the lock is to have her reliced up and modded. And I've already got the team, so the supporting characters are already set just because I knew what I was going to have to do. But as a thriftier whale, I've got limited resources, and then right now there's a lot of characters and needing the stuff and the things to make it work. So it's like it's like go, and I'll just be jumping on it to make sure that I have Datacron, etc.
Very fair. Yeah, I mean, so late last season I did a spree of Relic 9s, but here in the off season I did Morgan Elsbeth.
That's a good one, man.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm pretty happy with that one. In the near future, I want to do Great Mothers, Tuscan Warrior, Plo Koon, not necessarily in that order. I did get Night Sister Spirit up to Relic 8. She's just been at 7 for forever, and now it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously I'm going to be doing this now. So, yeah. Otherwise, I've just been farming a bunch of mods, because I've been feeling constrained on speed, health, and offense, so I've just been hitting them all more or less equally over the last week. Just trying to get some new inventory.
I also put the R9 on Morgan because once, like, I'm going to take Spirit to R8, and then I'll have, like, Acolyte Spirit R8, Great Mothers R7, and then Morgan R9. And then, like, I'm not planning to come back to this team, so I have to sync the R. I don't have to, right? But it's like, I don't want to have to come back to this team. Right, the same reason I did Paz right away on the bow team. I didn't want to have to come back. I know they have a crop, but I don't want to have to come back. So I sunk that. It's probably not necessary right now. It's probably more of a post-cron thing. But again, get the materials on the characters now. That way I know what I have in my inventory for Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Ahsoka and Balin are both coming down the pipeline and fast.
That's going to be a really crunch time because I know I'm going to sound kind of like an ass for saying this, but I'm down to 77 Omicron materials, and that actually doesn't feel like enough.
Shit.
Yeah, you sound like an ass. Yeah, you do.
I actually had like a moment of eyebrow raising concern about the near future constraint on the Omicron.
Fair, but you're still an ass regardless of the.
Well, don't worry. There's a $200 pack in the store for 65 of them. Go fix it, you filthy fucking way.
That just galls me. That just galls me. It's like you have the gall to charge that much.
It's only $189. It's only $189 because of the 5% discount you get.
got good value. I bought both.
Relatively, yeah. And I bought them before. I bought the same packs that you can buy two of that are available right now. The $200 ones. I bought them at Christmas time, right? That's I think the last time they sold them.
Last Black Friday, I think, is when they came out last.
Oh, is that it? Okay. Well, yeah.
I could be wrong. I thought so.
All right.
That's when I purchased.
Whatever. Late last year.
Yeah.
But, I did pick them both up, and it set me up great for this entire year. It's only right now that it's like in the near future. Because what is Ezra going to have? Like 2?
3.
He'll have 3.
He's going to have
always 3, sir. It's always 3.
All right. He's going to have 3, and then Balin's going to have how many? Shin's going to have how many?
He'll have 3 as well.
Yeah.
Balin is 3. Shin is going to be 1, maybe 2.
Okay, so there's me, not having enough Omicrons. Hi. So, yeah, I'm right to be concerned. It just took this long. And like I said, I can see it up front. It makes you sound like an X. Fine. Okay, fine. But how about the rest of you guys? Any major overhauls? I mean, I'll talk about my Night Sisters when we do that on the next topic. But just in general, anything you've been looking to shift around and it was your excuse to get it done here for this 3s? Anything else from you guys?
Well, your assholeness just freaked me the fuck out about me having 43 Omis in the bank.
Ha ha. Now you have to buy the packs.
Anyway, but no, I haven't really. Most of money is going to fall into the cron section of what I've been working on.
Yeah.
All right. I mean,
yeah. The only thing I'd add, so I did the same thing and leaned into the Night Sisters. I've mentioned, for the last few weeks, I've been, and probably among us, the most sort of, at least initially, unreasonably enthusiastic about them. I just find them to be a fun squad. I like Morgan's kit, but I also leaned in a little wary of sort of the resource drain that's coming ahead of us with, Ahsoka, Balin, and Shin. But I wanted to get my Rebel fighters further up in relics just for the damage that they can do. So I took Pow, Hoth Scout, basically, assuming that's the right one. I definitely took the right one. Whichever one of the 2 Hoth guys is
not Rebel
is not
Soldier,
awful.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Turn meter machine guy. And so I did that, and I'm curious to see, particularly with the Statacron set, what even in 3s, a non-Luthen Mon Mothma, POW squad can do and stuff like that. So that was the other area I leaned into, while just being a little cautious not to overspend just because there's so much coming.
Fair.
I want to make you feel worse, Dagger. I just checked. And I did apply both Omis on Great Mother because they look really good, right? Obviously typically, so that's one, but I still got 134 mats. So
see, I'm in Chromium, so I don't have the luxury of reading TW Omis. I'm just told to apply them in Duke.
Oh no, they gave us the notice that it's probably gonna be required.
Yeah.
I was already applying it.
I knew it when I saw it.
It's I saw it and I saw the DC and I was like, no, it's going on. And I'm like, I don't even need the notice, Jabba. Yeah,
as soon as the announcement came about the 2 Omis, it was click.
Nope, she's still sitting here at 90, 91, but she's damn sure got both Omis on her already. But I still have 134 mats right now as we speak, so I'm ready.
Yep. No, I get it.
Fatal in VDO. What's the? Well, I guess that's for you too, Sasha. Right? What's the level of enthusiasm for this Cron? How many people are going in for it?
I have my own personal thoughts on the system, but I was negative about it from the jump, and pretty much all of the response that I got towards the topic was people being like, I don't see what the problem is. So increasingly, I'm kind of just apathetic. But it feels to me like Galaxy Heroes is increasingly just turning into a spend war, and that's kind of
I can see that.
To answer your question, Task, they'll have 41.
Ooh.
Wait,
okay.
I just checked your guys' admin thing. You guys have 41 at 6-star or higher, which makes me believe you'll have
41. Yeah.
Well,
if you've got 6-star or higher.
CG's getting what they want then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think Chromium's going to have 43, it looks like, just looking off this.
Really?
Cyruss probably has a better idea.
Chromium will have 50.
I was gonna say gasp.
I would
Okay.
be shocked.
Some people aren't quite there yet. All right,
I was
fine.
gonna
Some
say,
people
but
aren't quite there yet.
let me help you though.
Yeah.
Not everybody has a Nomads, and I don't think people understand Nomads is a madman.
I did,
Premium's gonna have 50. Even if they don't have 50, they give it a day or two and they will have 50.
yeah.
I did some
Yeah.
Mad Men stuff 2 days ago
Did
where
you?
I may or may
Did
not
you?
have
Okay.
gifted vaults to like 7 people. So
Oh,
Oh, I
they're gonna
know, but I
have
also
Okay,
so
fair enough. Fair
Nice,
enough. Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
to
They-
also
they
help
do
you
that track, yeah,
understand, Cyrus was one of the guys posting it. This is nuts. You will have it. Let me know if you don't have it. So to help the people understand it, because it
is kind of
bonkers, dude.
insane. I mean, at the first reading, didn't at least some of us think that it was strong, but not necessarily disproportionately so compared to like the last couple of devoted, bespoke crons. But this one
yeah.
does feel like crazy. It just feels crazy.
I can say I was wrong because when I initially read it, I read it as like an amplification of what it already does.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really see the interaction of like how fast it kills that person who now has Doom.
Yeah.
Right?
also
That interaction was kind of lost when I initially read it.
Yeah.
we also didn't know the
Pre-rolled
stats. Yeah, the
Exactly.
stats. Yeah, the stats are the biggest
Yeah.
thing for me. Like my offense is like 130% on my
So,
cron. Like
man,
This is
you
nuts, dude.
you guys,
Cyrus, you asshole.
I was gonna say, like, I gotta show you mine. Like, I'm pretty sad. I obviously I can't re-roll most of the stats because they're the boosted stats, but here's mine. This is what I've got. I've got some health, I've got some defense, and then some chunk of prot. Yay! I got
I got
hosed on
defense
mine.
rolls that were literally below what was normally possible.
Really?
yeah,
Yep.
defense
so
rolled
even
lower.
double.
Defense rolled lower than the thresholds,
Yeah,
but
defense
health,
is
prot,
poor.
and offense was higher. Well, they weren't even in the set, so
It's a little disappointing because I've seen some of these bonkers crons out there with a 100+ percent offense. So
there's
I'm
somebody
jelly.
in Erodium with I think it's 200% offense.
I am.
Well, you
very
don't like your
jealous.
spend war single use expendable Datacron that has no way to like reroll or anything.
That's
Just
right. It's
go
literally
full
just
fucking
winning the
casino.
lottery.
Literally full casino.
It's just that. It is extremely dissatisfying, and this is as bad as it's ever been in terms of stat diversity, right? Like the odds
Yeah.
of you actually, even with this, the enhanced stats being different stats that may or may not be otherwise available on this Datacron set. The variance is just crazy, man. I'm bummed out by mine, but here we are. So, but
I'll have you know I have about 5% more health than you do. So
I mean,
You got
I saw it
served,
and I was
sir.
like, this thing is butts, and
Yep.
I appreciate you.
Everyone was pinging me when I got the 330 shards. Like, what'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you get? I'm like, don't just leave.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine right now, and I got 67% offense, 49% health, 31% defense, and 66% protection.
So you got a pretty good mix.
Yeah, so I'm not upset about that. I didn't even look at it because I didn't want to be depressed. And then Cass said his. I was like, all right, I'm not that bad. All right.
See, I have to re-roll this. It's a 35%,
Yeah, I did. No, I did.
and it's
That's
below
exactly
the
what I did.
minimum. The minimum is 50% where defense occurs.
No, I
like
know.
it is.
That's what I'm saying. You have to re-roll that.
I have to.
Yeah.
This one I think is the same. It
Yep.
is.
That's
This cron
why
is like direct booty, straight ass.
that's
I
why
feel
you
like I
got-
have
you
to
don't
keep
like
the
the system?
defense.
The system might have issues.
The
Go
defense
forward,
is
keep
still the
conceded
better
issues.
one.
Oh,
you-
I know I've been one of those people beating that drum about it's really hard to be mad at CG for rewarding their bad behavior. But can you please fucking stop this?
This stat
As I buy
variance
it?
is actually the thing I like the least. The bespoke Datacron, I've been like, I've been doubtful, but this is butts. Not a huge
your
fan.
problem, Tess, was you got a level 9 stat that was a defense stat, and that's really sinks your overall cron. Like it makes it so you don't like. I think one of my offense rolls in the higher threshold was like a 90% roll.
There's
So-
going to become a secondary black market for where people just like okay, a new Datacron set comes out, and people just start like swapping and trading accounts for like,
Oh my god,
all right,
I could
listen,
see
brother.
it.
I've got 150% off on this Great Mother Cron. For starting offers 4K. Like,
Yeah, I can see that. All right, well, guys, I mean, we've already kind of just walked into it organically, but about the Night Sisters, how we're kind of setting them up, the splits that we're going to be running, the modding for them, the crons. Obviously, Great Mothers, Morgan Elsbeth are pretty well tied together. I mean, for me, I'll probably be doing Spirit at least for most of week one. What say you guys about composition, at least for the Great Mothers team?
I mean, it breeds Spirit until proven otherwise, I guess.
Yeah, it would otherwise be
I think
Acolyte,
so.
right?
oh, I'm not even gearing on my Acolyte. Fucking
You're just like, nah, I won't be doing that. Alright.
Well, because literally the way the team works, if you look at the team's coding,
Mhm.
CG hard-coded a few behaviors in, and the one that is universally always true is Bless will either go to Spirit or Acolyte. And so literally, if you run both, I would have to imagine that Bless on Acolyte is strictly worse than Bless on Spirit.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So you are de-incentivized from running Acolyte, which is
Man,
incredibly
I
fucking
appreciate
funny
you
to me.
saying that because now I can take it off the checklist. I'm not going to work on it.
And
Does
like,
this
you know,
does this rotate Asajj? Does this rotate Asajj onto the team, or are we putting like Initiate here?
neither. Well, probably neither. I mean, right now we're in this weird shuffle where like Nikron exists and
Yeah.
Gideon Kron exists, but like fundamentally, ever since they revealed the Troopers and Enoch, I keep on looking at that squad, and I kept on looking at the tags because Enoch it doesn't have an Ice tag,
Right.
and call it stupid, but that always ate away at me a little bit. That I was like, I have made it clear that I think Enoch lead is like not really defense worthy, and I kind of just called bullshit altogether and said like from the jump, no, I think Night Trooper and DTP are gonna go with whatever the new Night Sister team is. And after seeing the kit, it's very Night Sister attacker centric, and it's what? It's Acolyte, it's Spirit, and then it's the two new guys, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, like whatever.
Oh, you don't like Initiate?
Oh. Well, they certainly do exist. I actually
Yeah,
don't hate
Initiate.
Initiate, but it's for Thousand Lead. Any value that they offer you is going to be for Thousand Lead because you got the debuffs on the basic for the Terminator game,
Mhm.
Terminator train. Like their value isn't 0, but it's not for Great Mother.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Night Trooper Chron is going to be roaming around DTP like as a TW Omi and all the shit like maybe they roam. But for the most part, I feel like it's probably Spirit and the new attackers if you're going 3 attacker, or like Spirit plus Knight plus Marin if you need a cleanse utility type shit.
Fair.
What I'm really saying here is fuck Acolyte.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Reasonable,
I'm glad she's
reasonable.
off the list. Sorry, what was that, Dagger?
Yeah. Well. Oh, I said reasonable. Glad to save myself an R8.
Mm-hmm. So if it's gonna be that Great Mothers comp, that leaves your Night Sisters intact for whatever type of Java counter you might be aspiring to, I guess. I don't think there's any type of really viable. Is there a viable third? I mean, I guess you could do. You could you could do like
I mean,
DACA
aside
Zombie,
Zombie's
DACA
one.
Zombie something. Have a third Night Sister team only for 3v3
Yeah.
purpose. Like DACA lead Zombie,
If you
Acolyte. I don't know.
if you really wanted a third team, you have like Asajj, Daka Zombie.
Something like that. Yeah. Anyway,
I don't think we're going
Is
to get
3v3 really constrained to the point where you feel that you need a team like that though? Is kind of where I'm.
No, I'm saying that because I can already feel the YouTube questions coming about like Tass. What do you think about doing like remember how we did a 3-way resistance split when we had set 14 and there were 3 decent defensive teams you could get out of that? Is that something that we can do with these Night Sister Crons? And it's like it doesn't feel like it. No. But I wanted to at least explore the
Yeah.
thought.
The Asajj and Zombiecrons don't stick out to me enough as holding together a third team with enough power to be better than like Saw Luthen, like Krex, right? Like, what's the worst team you're setting this season realistically? Is it Zori, Saw, right? Like, I don't
Something
think
like
that
that.
the third Night Sister team is better than that. Sorry, Cyrus. What were
I
you
was
saying?
just gonna say like the zombie cron actually isn't bad, but the problem is that the prior set kind of just trumps it in terms of like what it can do. It'll depend on mechanics in set 18. I think.
Mhm.
I think that it's too marginal a team probably
Mhm.
to set anything around it. I'm still gonna try and think through whether or not there is anything that could trip someone up, but I just don't think there is at this time.
Mhm.
I think Zombiecron makes me want to try Daka Zombie with Slacker like next season or something, right? Like maybe
Yeah.
see Daka Zombie. I think there's something there specifically, but that's not a Night Sister specific thing. That's just a hey, this is a little extra training wheels for the C that I have that kind of sucks now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
I
About
don't think that this rises to the level of like relevance at like super competitive GAC, but there is that sort of exploitable cheese aspect with that acolyte zombie. And then, it's probably for offense because if you have, some kind of active intelligence on the other side opposing it, they'll figure it out very quickly. But against AI, maybe it can do something as long as like, and this is where maybe the data crunch said it's the level 6, perhaps with like 10% health damage on a debuff, and you throw in, I don't know, it's a Talzin lead. I mean, granted, then you're compromising what would have been the second Night Sister team. But I think there is some stuff there. It's not grade A. It's like grade D edible cheese, but it's there.
cheese with a
Yeah,
Z on the end.
yeah. I mean, the real question is what do like we talk about like we don't like these teams for defense, but the other question is what beats what? Because if you can make like what Sasha's saying, like actually beat something silly on defense, like if you can do like a Saj, acolyte zombie and get that to beat something meaningful, just because of the ramp or what have you, then sure. I mean, if that beats something and you can split off, Towson with a third team, it might free up an extra team for you to put on defense, right? Like that's there might be some give or take to this. I'm not like excluding all of it altogether. I was just specifically speaking towards defense.
Yeah, I think we're giving the community its due because people are going to ask this. It's something that whenever you have these factions where it's mathematically possible to break it into three teams, somebody's going to think, is there something real with this with a certain combination of 369 that goes with the faction? And yeah, I think we're all pretty much united, and it's like, yeah, it feels like kind of middling. Like you get like two teams out of this, two decent teams. But
To be
Fatal,
fair,
just to remind us really quickly, who are what's the optimal three Night Sister squad against Jabba? It's and Talzin Marin, and who do you bring as a third? Is it Asajj or?
Historically, it's been Asajj because you want that Omicron for the extra tenacity, really, to just make your shit airtight. Support Cron, I don't know if Doc is ever like kind of worth trying, but like, I still kind of feel like if you're having those issues, then Doc is not going to solve it because you're still just like the clock that's going to come for you sooner than like your play clock on them is going to be the second Bausch AoE that just kills all your shit anyway. Then Doc is not going to change that at all. But I still think it's probably Asajj, yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
well, guys, I wanted to ask you here. I mean, I know everybody's dying to know how we'll be setting up our trio for the Great Mothers. I guess I wanted to cover Morgan and Elsbeth for me first. I surveyed all of you, Cyruss, and a few other people besides. And, there's some people that are faster than me, but I tried to strike a balance. So, knowing that she's going to get a total of 60% tenacity handed to her from her own unique and from Great Mother's lead, I wanted to have her about 120% tenacity, so I hit that mark, went for really high speed within just kind of defense and health sets, protection
feels
primaries,
low.
aside from the tenacity cross. So this is kind of where I landed. And then about 75% armor.
180 feels very low.
180 what, prot?
Tenacity feels very low.
Oh, 180 tenacity feels very low. Tell me about why.
I mean, well, A, we don't know what's going to beat this team, but B, generally, the only thing you need to basically clear this like reasonably consistently is 110% base potency, 120% base potency. Like 180 is not that high. You want to be closer to like 210. If you're going all in on tenacity, you want to.
Well, certainly not going in all
I
in
don't
on
think there's anything bad to be said about taking an opportunistic splash, though, right? Like, as
sure,
PG
sure.
has been kind of creeping up characters' base tenacities recently, being able to identify that, like, okay, you got like 100, 110 base, I can just splash set plus primary and get a lot of the benefits. Like, right? I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, and also, like, especially, we don't know what's going to counter at week 1, but also, like, support Kron shreds your tenacity by 100 to start. That, like,
Yeah.
if you're really having the tenacity conversation, then, like, even 210 is kind of insufficient.
Well, the reason I think about that is if she's the tank, the reason you're putting tenacity on your tank is to resist buff immunity, resist the ability to not take turns, right? Like your tanks tend to, at least in my head, tend to be more critical. If you're modding it for tenacity, you need to go all in. Just so that was just my initial thought. I'm not opposing splashing the tenacity on. I'm just saying, like, in a vacuum, if it's a tank, I'd shoot for like 210 if possible. So, like you said, it doesn't really matter this set too much.
So there might be some more wisdom in me just switching over to a proc cross.
It depends on how wasted you think the secondaries are. Like, how much better is a proc primary than a tenacity primary on Earth R9?
Probably something I'd be like 185, 187, something like that.
Well, that's you don't have to answer that question to me. I'm just saying, like, is that trade off better or worse?
Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of where I'm landing for week 1, and it depends on what I see people beating it with in week 2. I mean, we're all speculating here, I think, right? I mean, some people have done some rigorous play testing, but not me. So this is where I'm just vulturing off of you guys' hard work, right? That was the objective.
Yeah. Initially, I'm not sure how much the mods on this team matter because of how hard it's being carried by the Datacron. But I have my Morgan in like 3x defense sets with 4x primaries. Just make her as hard to kill as possible.
I mean, largely it's going to be a meta call based on whatever we see. So really, your week 1 strategy is just going to be trying to make something that generically can, like, maybe cover and do enough everything decently that, like, you're just kind of hedging.
That's kind of what I went for, some kind of balance.
Yeah. So with the respect, I think a splash is, like, reasonable within range.
Yeah.
We'll see how it is. Yeah, I'm just wondering. So most of you are, if you're not doing like a tenacity cross or even a 2-set, you'd otherwise just be rocking prot and trying to be what, north of 300, north of 320. What are you guys thinking is the floor for the speed that you want for this character?
I've been using this team in arena to beat everything with like a plus 80 speed on my.
So the speed doesn't seem to matter much.
I mean, I'm sure it toggles the percentages up and down. Cyruss can talk more to that. I'm just saying, like, I have like doo-doo mods on the team and it's still performing pretty well. So I'm not a good barometer for that, but it beats, pretty much everything, including JMK with.
Yeah, I had mentioned in the past that, like, I threw a ton of speed on Morgan initially. I pulled a little bit off just for other remodding purposes with other characters. But my thought with it was, like, I did not lean heavily into tenacity. I did put an R9 on Morgan. I was happy to do that. But it was more like I want to spike on something. Like in week 1, as everybody's sort of fumbling around for counters, whatever sort of initially presents, it's not necessarily the most solid and sustainable counter. And so I figured if I can just sort of have my one or two of the characters in the team spike in some slightly different way, that maybe, the first throw it against the wall counter won't work. And I figured, all right, I'll keep speed. And so I kept my Morgan at upper 340s or mid 340s, something like that. Just a good amount of speed, hoping that maybe makes some difference. There wasn't a ton of depth beyond that.
Also, hello to the cicadas. I hope you're enjoying your walk.
Thank you. Yeah, beautiful evening. Sorry for the ambient noise.
No worries.
No, it's wonderful. I have those coming through my window. You guys just can't hear them.
Well, I appreciate you guys indulging me on that. Let's go ahead and dig into the Great Mothers. I think I'm not really going for anything original here. I was thinking in our last episode that maybe offense would be interesting with her, or with these three, because of Magic Storm. It looks like it can be a pretty hard hitting ability, but it doesn't seem that most folks are willing to even try that week one. And considering the benefits for leading into health or defense or speed, or a balance of the three, maybe, yeah, that's kind of where everybody else landed. So I largely did the same. I went with the speed arrow health primaries, otherwise, tried to tuck in some offense as well. But this is where I'm at Relic 8, 93,000 health, 344 speed, 110% tenacity, and just under 12k special offense.
Yeah, I'm R7, but we had very similar thoughts. Mine are slightly less quality mods, but it's a speed plus defense set with 3 health primaries.
And perhaps
I thought
no, and perhaps some of the least shocking things I can say here. I can actually speak to the offense build. I've already tried it.
Please do.
So, it does do solid, respectable damage. Like, I was testing around in Arena, and for example, at one point I was kind of trying to use Ray to see if I could like do a inspired scam build to just like milk the Datacron for offense and then try to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't work, but one takeaway that I did have from it is when my Great Mothers were built for offense, I had my Ray died at like a 210k AoE at one point. It was 70 times 3, not like 210 times 3. But, right, it's like, so that's respectable damage. But, the final takeaway that I think I would say is Great Mothers tend to be decently exposed. And, like, for as much as the Datacron can carry things, like, again, so much of this really just depends on how things are going to shake out on solutions found to the OPI1 Datacron for the next 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
I think the real question of Great Mother's build is going to come down to, generally, they tend to be more exposed than the attackers. The attackers get way more protection, so they are accountable, and they do need to be able to account for some of their own survivability.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm not necessarily saying it's not offense build for them, but if it is, I think you're more working in the secondary realm than primary. But then also, yeah, it truly, I think, will be a part of the medical. Savvy players will look at what the impact of the AoE could have against whatever the popular counter is.
Yes.
And question themselves on, like, okay, does this matter here, right? Like, this is a Dispel plus a decent-sized AoE nuke. If it was something like, I don't know, Inquisitors, that could maybe put them under pressure, that, like, all of a sudden they're in the back foot. Mm-hmm. If it's like a JMK squad, where they're not really getting crit by it anyway, and you just kind of need her to be able to take hits, you probably don't care. So
when you went,
I found a few 5% offense secondaries to put on my speed plus defense set with health primaries. I did find some offense to put on there because, like Fatal said, there's something to having her not be a complete wet noodle, but I didn't want to commit extra offense primaries or a set to her because mine's only R7.
Keep in mind that she's just like Mother Talzin, and her crit chance is dog shit.
Yeah, it's abysmal.
So
Talzin actually has good special crit, so she's like a bad example.
Talzin has horrible crit chance. You said this last week, and it didn't jump you, but it's time.
It's time to face the music. Let's see it. It's time. It's time. I'm calling you out, Hulk. All right, so yeah, like 80 minus 53. Yeah, that isn't great.
She's got 26% base.
Yeah, it's not good.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
no,
in my head, it didn't take me much to get her up to like 65% crit chance.
I mean, if you got the crit chance secondaries, yeah.
Yeah.
But
so that was going to be my question back at you, Fatal. I mean, but before.
Yep. If Talzin has 25% base, Great Mothers, I believe, have 15%.
Yeah, it's considerably worse. So you didn't bother trying to go for the crit damage triangle.
No. Oh, not the triangle. No, yeah. I mean, I've got really good crit chance secondaries.
Sure.
So generally, whatever win that I wish to do.
Yeah. Okay. Let me put it this way. I'm at. Where am I? Okay. Yeah, it's 37 at R8. 27? 27 at R8. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm full of shit. You got me.
The
Mine's
name
like 75%, and it didn't feel that difficult to get there. So I guess I'm just full of shit.
this is the payoff for doing some work on your mods that isn't just speed. But I have so many conversations with people where it's like, this is the build, special points being the defense or the crit chance, and people are like, I can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
there's only one way you can get there.
Fatal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
true.
there's crit chances.
So you just went with double offense primary though, yourself fatal for triangle and cross.
I'm pretty sure, yeah, in the, because I just wanted to see, like, okay, I'm gonna do a full build around. I'm just gonna let it rock and see what you're capable of. I did 3 offense primary, crit damage triangle. They get 10% crit chance for free, I want to say. So the magic number is 90, but you're just not gonna fucking hit that. So I think I got her up to like 70% crit chance, or 75% crit chance up to 85, like 2,500 extra added offense. So like highly specialized build, literally like the best purpose built mods that I had for this type of build. And again, right, like if you build it, there's enough going on here that it will kind of come. But I think the thing that you really have to ask yourself is, this is a team that is kind of transparently interested in 1 hyper carry, and then overall 2, possibly 3 quote unquote carries, just bringing attackers. And the attackers in this faction aren't really that utilitarian. So the final question kind of just becomes, do I need you to be this? Or,
yeah, you want to let your attackers shine, and you're saying the best we can do for her is to make sure she can stick around to do her job, and if she can do some good damage on the side, so be it. But like you said, do that through the secondaries.
Yeah, I will tell you this. I just went through a mod apocalypse roughly 12 hours ago. Bulk primaries with specialized secondaries. Definitely been in crazy demand in the last 12 months. It's awful. I'm beyond out of them. It is unworkable.
Yes.
But then also, CG talks about Balin saying, hey guys, we want to make this guy a bruiser / juggernaut. And you know what the fuck that means?
Yep.
That means specialized hybridized mods. So the demand is only going to keep getting higher.
It's true. It is very true. All right. Well, yeah. Nobody else jumping in with any other crazy ideas on Great Mothers modding. As far as Night Sister Spirit, I imagine most people are going to do crit damage, and if not that, offense. Looking at some of the other top players, I saw people pushing up and over 330. Best I can do without causing myself too much pain is about 324. Went with the protection circle where I could because, it fit the profile better. And everybody everybody gets 1 life to live on this team, right? There's no resurrection thing. So I'm just thinking about most life total overall while trying to keep all the other stats. So some of these guys might have protection, some might have health, but it was more about trying to make the other numbers work. Wanted to have decently high potency, 91%. It's not 100, but didn't cause me too much pain again. Just over 10,000 offense, just about 100% crit chance. How about you guys? Anything revolutionary compared to that?
Well,
it sounds similar to mine.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Dagger. I'll go.
Okay, I was gonna say, if I put it on defense, I'm overwhelmingly likely to put it in an offense set because there's so much crit immunity, crit avoidance, where crit damage just feels like you're not doing the best service you can to a character, because there's a lot of counterplay to that. I know Fatal's mentioned crit avoidance on Krons and just it being baked in. This game this last year or so has been a lot about crit chance / crit avoidance. So if I'm putting something on defense, I have no real plans to put crit damage on it because it's too easy to get around that. So I would definitely put it in an offense set. Not saying that crit damage can't be correct, but man,
No, specifically for defensive application, that's a fairly clever point. So, yeah, good mention.
I actually found a protection cross with like 4.5% offense I might work on for her.
Oh yeah.
Just because I think with Blessed, it takes care of a lot of the damage you might need from that team. So maybe making her more durable, especially in 3s, is better. I don't know. Like that's just my first thought. Is like in 3s. I know Sasha mentioned it earlier, trying to attack from a different angle. and having just a bulky spirit that still has a bunch of offense on her might be worth it, or either that or a fast if you have an offense prod arrow that's good. I know at least I have a couple running around. I have my old gas one and my current gas one, so the old gas one might go over here. But I was thinking of building her similar to like gas and just like having her be like 300 to 310, but also kind of bulky with damage.
That is interesting. Yeah, I think I have a couple attackers set up exactly that way for the reasons you mentioned on other teams. So more mod stress. Yay!
Woohoo!
How about the rest of you? Is anything interesting? Ooh, you're breaking up, Sasha. Try again. Here we go. I believe in you.
Yeah. Hang on. All right, give me 1 sec. There we go. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, you had mentioned potency tests, and I think it's definitely an underrated aspect of underrated stat for Spirit, and that people naturally think about the special and the stun, but the basic is where it really makes a difference. In that she gets 20% turn meter only if she's able to remove 20% turn meter. So, you really, and there are a number of other opportunities for turn meter gain on these great Mother Night Sister squads. But, if you've got her on like the all in with Morgan's last special, you're not only removing turn meter with this, but like you want to ensure you're going to gain that turn meter, which only happens if you remove it. So anyway, yeah, I have not gone as far as 100% the way you did on potency, but it was something I tried to be a bit mindful of with secondaries there.
Fair enough. Yeah. Anyone else with
good offense?
Sorry.
Yeah, a good offense secondary protection arrow and a good offense percent secondary potency cross would probably be ideal.
Fair. Very fair. It's probably easier for people to hit up closer to that 100% mark that way, for sure. Myself included. All right. Fair enough. All right. Nothing else groundbreaking there. Still, a bunch of interesting teams and factions to talk about. Next up on deck is Imperial Remnant. So the splits and the crons. I mean, all right, I hear you, Fatal. You're saying that as a lead, Enoch is kind of crap. So, I mean, I've got him kind of tanked out. He's not that fast. I imagine as a lead, he would be better if he were considerably faster. But I was thinking about Enoch Knight DTP. However, it still might just be better to roll with DTMG leading the two of them. But that means that I don't have the opportunity to have like DTMG, Gideon, and Scout, right? So is the Enoch lead so bad that it isn't worth having alongside the split, with DTMG?
I mean, the context of calling things bad really depends on whether we're talking about defense or offense at this point. Actually, I'm trying to pull it up right now as I'm speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to see if Enoch had an impact on fights like Malgus for DTMG, because
he didn't, from what I recall.
I heard some people saying that they got holes, but like that could just also be placebo or just skill issue.
Yeah, it could be holds for non-Enoch related reasons.
Yes. That like I kind of had some hopes that like DTMG is bugged for his crit avoidance, and that Enoch kind of plugged one of those holes against special damage that I was hoping maybe would have been interesting. But so when I say Enoch lead is bad, like I'm sure you can probably take Enoch lead and B teams on offense with it, and people will do it, and they'll be like, "Man, this seems cool." But yeah, I don't know. I'm still like fundamentally, if it's a strong new character, especially Enoch is kind of a unprecedented character at this rate. This is like CG running it back when they released Hux, and Hux got nerfed almost immediately. And this time they're like, nah, actually the game's in a different state now. I think we can kind of Hux it up. And I'll say, like, I reported Enoch pretty much just day and date with when I was testing him. And there hasn't been any verbiage about CG caring about it at all that I've seen. That like I think dude is just here to stay. And so when I'm being so hypercritical of Enoch at the moment and his lead, it's because I see so many applications elsewhere again, this character is basically just like a second Datacron that you could just blanket jam in literally any team.
And we're back. All right. So we're just talking about how ineffective Enoch might seem as a leadership, and then I'm sorry, Cyruss, you were just saying.
Yeah, I had said that there wasn't really any noticeable difference with Enoch on D with DTMG, but like Malgus, it's like a 6 to 7% drop. It's not a huge sample size. I fought it a couple times. I didn't feel like it was any harder, so I don't know.
Yeah, not really consequential enough for me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's not massive.
Mm-hmm.
So then, yeah, I'm still right. Like, I think the way that most people are going to use Enoch, they're just going to hold him for offense. They're going to look for teams where blanket crit immunity is enough to get the win. And like, do you want to be doing that while Nightcron is active and you could just Nightcron with another team? Like, I'm sure some people are going to want to do that anyway, but that's why I'm so critical right now of like, yeah, I think there's a ton of unexplored space and teams that you can just jam an Enoch in, and people could take a look at it and be like, "Oh, I fundamentally understand what's going on here," and like, no, you don't. Like, I can jam an Enoch into a Radis squad and time out a JMK team. Now that's not necessarily like a glowing sign of praise of success, but the Enoch doesn't fucking die unless Cat nukes him turn 0 with the taunt ignore, with the set 15 Datacron, right? Like,
Right.
This is why I don't tend to care about his speed so much. Is like, I truly just kind of see him as a tank, and so
Gotcha.
as long as he can just chill and be there, like, it's just a hell of a transformative unit. And so, yeah, right. Like, even if Night Trooper Kron didn't exist, I'm sure I've seen people like doing Enoch lead against like gas and stuff like that, and I'm sure it can kill like some higher teams. But I can kill those squads with like a Wampa or other such similar units. I can't put Wampa in like a C team or like, I don't know if it's Afra, but like there's an extended list of teams that are still plug and play friendly. I can't put my gas counter into those squads and make it fundamentally different. So at that point, I feel like Enoch lead is more so just the fun new toy with a novelty appeal, rather than like, I would be very surprised at this point if it's doing anything that other teams can't already do, because Enoch can do things that fundamentally literally nobody else can do.
Even so, though, as a lead here in threes, you're still kind of dubious. So you're still thinking that there's plug and play application for him here in threes.
Sure, I like.
Okay.
Enoch is beyond canon to me at this point. Like, truly, he just feels incredibly natural and just. It's a tempo shift for the team, right? And Sith Eternal Emperor is fundamentally a character that already wanted to shift you down and slow you down a bit to buy him time. That, like, in some ways, like, this is definitely sensationalized, especially for the 3v3 mode. But, like, I think Enoch has been just as successful at lifting Sith Eternal as, like, what's his dingus? Bane was.
Okay. Wow.
Because Bane, that works on offense, sure, but Sith Eternal on defense, especially, right? Like, my puzzle box team, I'm not gonna say it was like the best thing in the world, and I didn't really get to perfect it, but it kept getting holds because it's a fundamentally different Sith Eternal than we're used to playing against. And like, as with most puzzle boxes, I know the solution, and if you let me drive on offense, I can pick it apart immediately. But
Fair.
that's for the attacker to know.
Very fair. How about the rest of you guys?
I've had I've only played around very limitedly with Enoch. So Fiddle, I'm curious, in the little bit of testing I did when I first unlocked him in Squad Arena, my impression was that he was somewhere on that priority target list for AI. You've spent a lot more. He is not really okay. That's exploitable for sure. Then I actually felt.
The first thing that I did with Enoch is I literally took 3 characters from the target priority list, put Enoch in the squad with Sith Eternal Emperor, and was just like, all right,
There's
Cool.
Thrawn, GMY, and these are your best friends.
No,
Armor.
literally, this was against Padme Crown, mind you. But I was
Yeah.
taking Sith Eternal Emperor with Enoch, and then Malgus to eat the nuke, and then DR to block assist for a while. Which, by the way, fuck Padme Crown. Not because of the usual stuff you would think of it for, but like the provoke and the automatic expose were actually so good at picking apart Darth Revan. In a scenario where he's otherwise like kind of an insane god where you can't assist against him, and also nobody except J&K can crit against him mostly.
Yeah.
It was like having to watch him waste away to like damage over time and percent health is like I hate this. I hate this. But then the fifth on that squad was Armorer. And it was the most relaxed Armorer fight against J&K you have ever seen. You're taking like 3 turns with Armorer to get your Beskar out, and you're like, yeah, all right. I guess I would know.
Wow. Nice.
Yep. No, the first thing I did with Enoch is I went and checked the AI priority list. He was not there, and I said, "Oh, CG."
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah, I thought it was there, and then my impression was that was some sign of intelligence as to sort of the versatility, broad applicability of it. But if it's not there, forget it. Sign of intelligence was a false positive.
No, Enoch is routinely one of my last men standing in most offense arena fights that I test with against any variety of teams.
There you go.
All right, I'll give him some go. We'll see what happens. I will let you guys know next week. But
I'm not saying the hill that I'm dying on is for sure the best.
Yeah,
I think it is without a doubt. I think it is the most interesting or just like new frontier type shit.
But yeah. But you already answered the core of the question. Is you still see him more interesting for his plug and play use than as a lead, regardless. Kron's included. Imperial, I think he even has his own Kron, right? But even with that considered, it's just it's still just not as good as using him in the way you suggest. So that's fair.
He has his own Kron, but you would probably just use Night Trooper Kron until it expires. I'd imagine Night Trooper Kron just be.
Yeah, I imagine you would. Yeah,
I would button.
Yeah, exactly. I was asking, just in case you've given it the thought, and it's like, yeah, it's still not that good. It's like, fair enough, completely fair.
Well, you could do Night Trooper Kron with other teams that Enoch lead.
Yeah, you could. Very fair. All right, guys, unless anybody else has something interesting on the Imperial Remnant, I'm going to want to try and have us cover some ground here in the next few minutes.
Is there anything OG Gideon related?
Hopefully it's fixed.
Oh, yeah, with the Kron? I haven't heard anything. Yeah, that is insane. I'm sure.
Yeah, because if that hasn't been fixed, that's a team. That's an Imperial Remnant team.
Deeply unethical team, but yes, a team nevertheless. All right, guys.
Sorry, I just wanted to point that. Yeah, I just wanted to.
No, I hope they fix that because that was insane. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
We all saw that Moff Gideon versus the entire Gungans with their Set 15 Kron and just mowing them down. So yeah, that needs attention. But speaking of Gungans. Since the Set 15 Kron expired for them, are they still on defense for you? Are they still going to be a defensive stalwart? Or are you thinking about how you might abuse that shield generator on offense?
I'm lazy. Support Kron on defense.
Good enough.
I'll probably set it on defense first week and just see how cheaply it's beaten.
Mm-hmm.
Probably go from there, but depends how much time I have to look into it. I mean, I looked at the 5s data, which is very limited for, support Kron.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty meh, but we'll see.
Without the supporting cast right now, we talked about it before. I'm not a fan of putting them on defense with the Krons and the way they're at. We don't have Super Kron anymore.
How might you apply them offensively? Where do you see yourself?
So this is one of the ones where it feels like what Fatal said. That I don't know application right now, but I don't feel like it's going to be good enough to be on defense. In 5s, I think we're fine. I think we're fine in 5s, right? I think full team, we're good. Because the 2 supporting and then the attacker, you can set it up. And I think those are going to be some big numbers, right? But in 3s, it feels lackluster. I'm sure there's some RNG to it, but I don't. What that Kron did so much stacking up on you. It was literally what held that team up, in my opinion. And now it's basically gone. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna do a support Kron with one big hit. So there's your one thing. If they get off, but you're basically stopping the team now from doing anything. So BKM is gonna eat that up wholeheartedly, without having to do the whole exploit. So I can just I have concerns where it's at. What did Dagger say? It's like the 16th team or something like that. Where it's like it has a contender because you need so many slots, but I don't know if it's gonna be where it's like, oh, you're putting Gungans bottom front and you get to deal with it now.
Yeah, I don't think they merit all that. Or maybe not at least
like
consistently.
if Padme's still beating it, like I just
That's what I mean, right? It's like how low, and I Cyruss is right. How low does the bar go? But if
it's Treya, I'm okay with that.
Oh, that's a great pull, in my opinion. If you can pull a Treya, you pulled a solid counter, right? Then it's like, okay, well then that's a good 15 team. But my concern is I know it's not, but it's like Wampa beating it. It's something that's so cheap that you can put it out there and it gets to beat it and be called out. It's like that is not worth the money, in my opinion, when there are teams that can do more.
I might have some legs to counter.
I can see it. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Not to overcomplicate it, but like if you're running support Kron, you're literally not running any attackers unless you're deliberately putting in Tarpals or Boomadir.
Yeah.
Tarpals is kind of interesting. I played against Tarpals a decent amount during the Gungan Kron in 3v3. And those counterattacks could actually just kind of fuck you up if you're not being careful.
We talked about it before here as one of the big things we were talking about for threes and what it was going to be, right? And Dagger was the one who called out that he might want to try to play around with Tarpals in the beginning, right? And that was even with the Kron we were talking about, what our key character. And Tarpals was like, that's if you're not doing the tank, you're doing Tarpals, right? And that just became the other idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just don't know. I guess I think, but I just need some lax damage.
Yeah,
lax damage, just not meaningful things. So I don't know.
So they might be better as some type of offensive exploit. Sorry, somebody was going to say something.
It says probably like a top front team, like just.
I guess. I guess so.
At least one for me.
I can see you trying to exploit maybe here and there, but if it is, then it's definitely. Yeah, then it's Tarpals, right? That's who's going in there. That was just such a strong attacker for right now.
Fair.
Again, I'll feel much better in fives, saying where Gungan's at, right? Because those two supports are some great supports. And then you stacking those hits, I can imagine the numbers that are going to come out are pretty huge.
Fair. Guys, Plo Koon, Eth Koth, how you guys setting them up mod-wise, and on which teams do you intend to apply them here in this first week of 3? So my Plo Koon survey says I just went with speed and health. Just kind of tried to bulk him out, have him about 270 speed, reasonable amount. Big, thick lad, eventually trying to get him to Relic 9 in this season. And, that's it for him. As far as how to apply him, I'm really not sure in 3s, I got to be honest with you.
Yeah, Eth Koth is probably going to go with, like, Qui-Gon or Beck. I think this is another reasonable time when you can split Qui-Gon and Beck. I don't know, like,
that's
exactly what the splits look like, but I think this is... People tried to do that last time, and it was wrong. I think this is one of those times when it might be right.
Yeah.
I think Eth... I was just going to say, I think Eth has quite a bit of flexibility here this season. We'll see what happens. I think Plo...
Special is just brutal.
Yeah, I think Plo I'm going to keep for offense and just see what if I can kill a really big team.
Man, Jedi stun, dude. The disruption of being able to... It's like I can see Tass loves his team. I can see JKL coming back. Right?
It is a fun team.
I can see... I know how you are, right? Your JKL team was your bread and butter for a long time there. But it's like all of these Jedi are on the table right now. Dagger said at one point in one of our points when we talked about like the disruption that the stun level 6 with the Jedi teams, JKR, old school JKR are back on the table because they're just moving so fast and doing so many specials on you that you're just...
Yeah, GMY.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
Vascular GMY,
dude, getting
he
a
takes
full
so many turns.
a full bottom wall of Jedi, right? It's like the full bottom teams are just
I-
Jedi teams. The stunning, right? It's like
I-
that disruption is huge.
I honestly think that the stun is better on offense than defense. So I think we might have to figure that out as we go. Though the randomness of hitting the right character is the upside is huge, but AI is stupid because just AI is dumb.
I just know that I don't the like JKR team. I wouldn't want to discount it. I also wouldn't want to discount like Tass's JKL team. These things where it's like they sneak up on you very fast. JKR, in my opinion, does a great job with AI wise of like maybe it's just bad luck for me. But I kept getting caught out, whereas JKR just tags the right person because of AI priority, whatever it's going to be, and then they're off to the races, and you're not slowing them down.
Be careful of setting JKL. One of its natural predators is Iden, and Iden isn't really used right now. So maybe think of that more as like an offense team.
There.
The
I think it's gonna be
timing is
super strong.
also kind of interesting with this being the first time in I think like 8 months that Inquisitors have not had either an Empire, an Ufu, or an Inquisitorius Kron. So kind of making them a little less viable on defense, moving them to offense, and they're immune to stun around Deriva, right? So like you have this kind of natural Jedi predator out there that is immune to the most powerful mechanic introduced by this new set. So I'm not setting Reva.
Nope.
and I think that should be nice to
And
have for
Freya and
Freya's
Malgus
another good
/
example.
BR.
Yeah.
All these characters that are basically immune to stun. Because I
All
expect
that
people to wall
combined
up
with
with stun on special.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that should be all over the place. Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of, I think, kind of interesting things that'll happen on the Jedi front. I mean, there's, we have ample amount of counters for everything, but like, I was thinking about like, the stun on special. Obviously, a JML lead gives you tons of special opportunities because you have this added leadership special. And like, you take like a JML and you throw him with like Kanan and Old Ben. And I know it's ridiculous, sure they'll taunt, but then you have a level 3 with revive for light side tanks. Yeah, I don't know that there's necessarily much to it, but I just I don't know, might be fun to do.
Yeah, cheesy, deliciously cheesy. I can appreciate
right.
it. All right, but yeah, it doesn't seem like. I mean, I guess for Plo Koon, I know a lot of people were thinking at least for 5s to set him with JML, but I don't know if that costs you too much for your 3s composition. So, okay, but Eth Koth going with Kelleran, that seems fair. I don't know, maybe.
Or even Qui-Gon.
Okay, with Qui-Gon. Okay, I can feel that. That's fair. All right.
Well, I'm just thinking it like Cyruss mentioned, they're all just so flexible.
Yeah.
It's a big world right now. Again, when you just open the Jedi doors, and what gets to come out of it is there's a lot of ways to maneuver your team.
Very fair.
Yeah, because ETH can go under almost any of them, right? Because he can even go under gas, he can go under whatever, right? So there's
Galactic
opportunities
Republic
to
Jedi. That's all you need.
Yeah.
So
That'll be fun.
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Luthen, guys, in 3s, we've all had a little experience now playing with Luthen. Obviously, not with the new set and his level 9 specifically for him, but is he immediately? Are we immediately thinking that he's tied with like Saw and Krex, or are there other compositions that are a little less cookie cutter that we might try? What do you guys think about that?
Now, I would say in 3s, if you're going to use him with a support cron, don't forget to include an attacker, because if you do, him Saw, under a Saw lead, and you add Krex, then you're generating a ton of debuffs, a lot of really cool ramping using that support cron with no attacker for it to land on.
The summon is, but I don't know.
Summon's an attacker. You're right. That's a great point.
But
and a beast.
I don't think he benefits. I can't remember.
He might benefit, but like, would he keep it if he dies and gets resummoned?
I don't think so, right? Because it counts it as a new instance of that character.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a wrinkle. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So
I
maybe
largely
maybe
agree. I
not
was
with
just throwing
Saw
it out
and
as like,
Freeze. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I largely agree with what you were saying about make sure you include an attacker. I just wasn't sure what this would
Yeah,
be.
it's funny. I was thinking of it almost as a tank because I've been, playing with it under Salvary taunts, right? Or it has to be targeted, is it? I can't recall. But
He gets marked, yeah.
yeah, it gets marked. But yeah, I mean, it certainly can hit like a truck. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, if Luthen doesn't really fit in that scenario, let's say you're doing like, Saw, Krex, Kyle, then with the support cron, if that ends up being the superior use of Saw, then so Mon Mothma, Luthen, Scout to
Mon
cheese.
Mothma, Pow Chrono carried Mon Mothma team in threes.
Okay, Pow Luthen. Okay, so that's probably got legs to run roughshod over something. TM Lupin.
Yeah, and if you stick Luthen with your Saw, you used to love Pow with your Mon Mothma team. You can do like Cassian or Jin as your third.
Can Mon Mothma protect against Jawa deaths without Luthen being present? I don't remember what the magic number for Jawas, what their cheating potency is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Okay.
that's true. Yeah, and threes. And I mean, I wouldn't put Mon Mothma on defense
Yeah.
regardless. I think
Even with Palcron?
But I don't think I would. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just, I just, I don't know. I feel like it just gets buried by too many teams.
If you don't have the right tool, a right set of tools, it's brutal. It would be brutal.
How does Wampa do versus it?
Wampa attacks out of turn, so probably not good.
Fair enough.
All right. Last question in this segment here for our week 1 stuff. It appears that efficiency is back on the menu and/or a one-shot meta. Are we hoping or coping that Great Mothers gives us, like a defensive viable team? Are we thinking set 17 overall is giving us some interesting defensive chops, or are we all more or less bracing for the worst and, expecting to have to one-shot the whole board to get the win?
I think week 1 you can afford to drop a fight or two, but as we go on, as Great Mothers is solved, I just don't see a real world where there's lots of drops, unless you're setting the house, in which case you'll both drop a lot. But yeah, I don't know. This I could be off base, but this definitely screams, especially with the support crons, that there's just going to be plenty of damage going around for everyone.
I think for 5v5 it'll be true, but 3v3, I wouldn't say he's immune to it. It's definitely not, but it has some built-in resilience because of extra board size and depth and ability to pressure more. It's been tested recently that like set 15 kind of eased off that pressure, that it's definitely going to be back, but I don't know if we're past that threshold yet. It's definitely going to be like a test of a season for where things are at. 5v5 though, 100% yes.
Yeah, all right, so get ready, folks. The pendulum is swinging back. So here we go. All right, that about wraps up that segment there. Next up is the Patreon questions. So yeah, I know, last time I did this for the patrons, I gave them too little notice. They were able to get enough time to get in a bunch of questions for everybody here, so let's dig right into them. First one here from Zoltre. Where do you guys see Eth Koth with his Datacron for 3s and 5s? How do you plan on modding him? Okay, I actually, you know what? I didn't delete this question here because I included it in our agenda. So we got you covered, Zoltre. All right, we got that one mentioned. Renee, is a frequent opponent of some of us. He says, can I stop fighting you every week, Cyruss?
He actually caught me in. I was in August. I took a month off. I got married at the beginning of August, and I think he matched me twice during the month. So he had I think one free win, and he beat me once. So, but we've probably faced each other like 7 times this year.
It's just been kind of Groundhog Day. That would be a reasonable explanation. All right, next question from Esh Sotnikam. Going back to, say, Bo-Katan Mandalore, like, how would you assign out Grand Arena Omicrons in light of the current Crons and the new characters? so I guess the implication is BKM still relatively high priority, or am I thinking Gungans? Am I thinking QA? Am I thinking Night Sisters? How am I ordering that if I'm just coming up on those characters?
I think BKM has more clear do's and don'ts in terms of use cases than Gungans do right now.
Mm-hmm.
That like, I mean, if Gungans occupy like any slot in the space of the game, to me, it would be like kind of RNG casino trying to scam you out of some banner tax type beat on defense. Whereas Bo-Katan, she's not really defense postable. At least I don't think. I like maybe BKM Enoch is something to explore, but like for the most part, she's there with some clear roles on offense, and I think each of her Omicrons kind of represents a different matchup and kind of helping that type of matchup that I would only really say, is it the lead that doubles her gains on Ancestral Resolve? Yeah, her lead gives you 1 extra whenever you gain it. Like, that one's pretty nice. Like, sure, that's okay. The special one that gives you a BAM turn immediately can be nice, but is kind of a double-edged sword because there could be times where, hey, let's say Mandalorians don't really do a whole lot to make sure they get to play the video game, and so sometimes your BAM will be in squat stance, and you will have people who just can't play the video game to provide stacks. And so having this button that says BAM goes immediately can actually just kind of backfire hard on you. Like, let's say Fear, right? Like, she can cleanse a stun or whatever, but Fear generally tends to be locked. You're going +6 stacks into, all right, BAM, go get him, champ. And just nothing happens.
Very fair.
I would say that Omicron targets Rey and Jabba, and then the Taunting Door is like good against Gungans and like kind of Lord Vader, that type of stuff. So that one is just like universally good.
I also just think Bo is lower priority than a lot of the other stuff that's coming out down the pipeline.
We already talked about earlier in the show that, like, I mean, CG's current design ethos is cyclic meta, and teams are good like right after they come out for a while and then fall off a bit. So if you are planning to interact with that content, probably don't prioritize Bo.
Yeah, so go for, I mean, hopefully you've got your Gungans just about wrapped up, and ideally not too much longer on your Queen trio. I mean, hopefully that's coming up for you soon. But yeah, if you're going for the newest, if you're in a position to go for the newest, I agree with what Fatal just said. I mean, the game has very clearly been saying for some time, if you go in and if you bias towards the newest thing, you're going to do fine. So.
Yeah, I'd just say for Ezra at that point.
There. Yeah, you might consider that. Ash. Okay, next question. There were a couple interesting ones, kind of
really quick. I don't know if you mentioned Jar Jar in there, but just to kind of get it out there, I think Jar Jar is. I don't know how much you want to invest in him, but I think he probably is. There's enough reactivity and randomness to the kit where I think he will be useful long term. So at least the Omi, if you're going to R9 him, at least the Omi that adds the stacks.
The choosier the meta gets, the more likely they are to be used on defense just to try to scam out a banner advantage, I imagine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's one of the teams I would recommend, like, sinking, like, 1 and 2 maybe.
Just
but
that one, and not, like,
Booma's,
Booma's, not the Prot Disruption one at this point?
I don't think so. I think with the Krongon, the value for that is a lot lower. Unless the team that beats it, unless that stops the common counter.
Okay. All right, yeah, just wanted to ask. Okay.
Yeah, generally look for teams that have a lot of reactivity, that are flexible in both offense and defense, or always save for the unknown. If you're not sure what you want to do with something, just back pocket it. You'll be fine.
All right, next couple questions here from Stryker. For JMK, the Padme-Cron was propping him up on defense, but now there are so many counters to him. Is he now consigned to offense only? Is that what you guys are thinking here for the start of the season? Or, all these Jedi Crons putting a spring in your step, you're really seeing some role for him on defense?
What 3v3 counters does he have now? I guess Bane? Oh, I guess
Revo?
Bo-Katan probably.
Yeah, both.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was just saying, Inquisitors will destroy JMK.
Yes,
Pat may literally
without
stop that, but
punishing the
even
assisting,
when
yeah.
Pat Nacron was there, because no one really put it unless you did the super team.
Yeah.
Inquisitors destroy JMK.
So what do you guys
Yeah, I mean,
think?
for me, it'll start on offense, but that's not to say that it's not going to be a valuable defense team. Should you want to place it?
Okay. Fair. Yeah, and anyone else who wants to answer, just throw in any time. But yeah, are there any sleeper 3 versus 3 comps with the new Krons, so set 17, that you think might catch people out week 1? So aside from obviously the leading candidates that we've discussed, is there any kind of like, man, nobody's really thinking about this one and it's going to sneak up on you? You don't necessarily have to go into full details if you don't want to, if you're still cooking on something. But you got a breadcrumb for the folks? What do you guys think?
I think the Rogue One Crons have a lot of interesting play and counterplay. I don't know how surprising they'll be on defense, but they offer a lot of stats and there's yeah. Like they're already there's a handful of teams that already have 1 or 2 Rogue One characters, and that's a lot of stats on that L6.
Yeah, it is.
I might post Radis Enoch just to see what happens.
Radis Enoch Jin, then, yeah.
Oh man.
Well, okay. Let's say you see Radis and you're like, this fucking idiot, and then you JKR mark him, and then his health bar just doesn't move.
What I like is it's going to be the stream of where did I place my Enoch this time? That's going to be Fatal Stream every single GAC match.
Where's Waldo?
You know it's on somewhere else. Is it in the front? Is it in the back? You know it's there.
All I'm saying is, keep in mind, what Dagger said is correct. You can just splash that Datacron, and that sure does just say double your bulk.
Mm-hmm.
That I do think unfortunately the exclusive Rogue One clause is pretty fucking good, and so I'm probably legally obligated not to do it. But if you are trying to scam people out, because once the meta shifts and adapts and evolves, and people are just used to what's happening, again, kind of my defensive ethos this last season, and it worked, is you just got to start scamming at some point. And people will just step on those rigs.
I do like the idea of your idea with the ad red, right? Only because the go-to has always been bounty hunters, and that's based off your crits. Because it was just like, oh, I'm just gonna bypass the team. So that's pretty funny you mentioning it. So it's like, yes, I get the idea of the Enoch, but that's still cool.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next question here is from Ivanek. With the plethora of new tunes being dumped into the game recently, if somebody had the means to pursue either Balin or GL Ahsoka, but not both initially, would you recommend who would you recommend prioritizing first and why? And which do you think will be the most impactful to a GAC focused player?
Is an easy question. This is an easy question. It's Balin.
Yeah.
You get the Night Sister team, and you get Balin. And he works with characters that are already on your roster.
And I really, timing wise, they have said that we're not getting her until the end of when the Conquest is out. It
So
really,
but
it's like right. But doesn't that make sense though? Right? It's like even at the timing, they're telling us who's coming out. They're building up. That whole big thing was about Mercenary Tag and what it does. We know the characters that are coming out and they're coming on the team. So it feels like Balin is right around the corner, not Ahsoka. So if you're looking at like the right now factors, they haven't even announced set 3, the third tier of characters that are going to be in the game for Ahsoka yet. And I feel like they've announced who we're getting for Balin, right? So it's to me, it's
yeah.
What did you say
Morgan,
was that?
Great Mothers, Shin, and Thrawn.
When did you say? You said what? 4 weeks or something like that. You thought that was?
I think we will see this in 3 to 4 weeks latest.
I really feel like that's pretty accurate, man. So if you're asking me on timing for
I
somebody,
honestly think we might see this during this 3v3 season.
Oh, that's right. That's what you said. And it's like that feels
Like week
pretty
2 into
on
week
point.
3.
We're not
Like
getting
we'll have Balin for week 3.
because we're not what it seems to apparent to me, and I think it should be for others too. We're not getting a fleet. This, in my opinion, I've said it before. This
No, we're
feels
getting
like,
Vanguard ships.
but that's what we're not. But normally we get a fleet, right? So what would happen
yeah,
is the
yeah.
timing for a GL would come out, and our resources would get stretched super thin, and we would get a fleet at the same time. I feel like Balin is the replacement for the fleet in that look at our resources and how stretched they are. So it makes sense that Balin would come out as the next character because everything's aligning up, right? So if you're asking me my honest opinion and it's a right now factor, Balin feels pretty on point to come next, and that's where you'd want to go.
And I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to be a TW or TB character. So that means you won't have to send Gakkomies into him either.
But still derive better value in GAC from him than you would otherwise get.
He's cheaper.
Yeah.
Basically,
just less
he's
resource
cheaper than
intensive
Ahsoka.
to get. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you only get one more new team, get the cheaper one.
Okay. That's fair. That's a fair.
Ahsoka is going to be more impactful, but
Right.
we already have 7 GLs.
Oh, excuse me.
Well, I just look at the time of it, dude, and the way it's going. Sorry, we're boring you, by the way, Task.
No, it's no. It's
I
only
know what it
starting
is.
to
I
get
know
late for you, boy.
People don't understand what time it is for you right now when we're doing this, but
It's all
but
right.
I would
It's damn
I
near
would like to
midnight for me,
hear.
and I'm central.
So I'd like to hear what everybody else thinks, but it's like, to me, my opinion, and Fado called it out too. The way they're calling Balin out, being the bruising tank basically, and the fight going on, and the way it's being set itself up, I expect Balin to do some crazy things. And we don't even know what the other two that they built in, right? They've already talked about who's going to be on the team. And already these great mothers, even without the Kron, right? I was watching the Arnold video, like him doing the stream stuff like that. Even without the Kron on base notes, this Great Mothers team has some crazy shit going on. It's the Kron is next level stupid. Don't get me wrong, but the Great Mothers are cool as shit as far as like a character design and what they're doing. Like I already said, I'm a nice spirit truther, so it's like she's been cool as hell from the beginning because she'll just destroy a character at turn 1. Is just money. So.
All right. Well, now the last couple questions here are actually for you, Cyrus, so we'll see what you make of them. First, from Miasmal. Beyond the obvious players, is there somebody you secretly scout their GAC history? Who's somebody that isn't one of the likely, usual suspects, but you still like to pay attention to?
I feel like all of them, the ones that I used to learn from Aesop, who he scouted, have been revealed. Like, I mean, I used to look at Canada Fett stuff a lot, just because he had so many, novel ideas. I mean, Fatal, I always look at Fatal's stuff as well. I mean, these are obvious ones, but I try and look for people that are very creative, because I find, like, especially where we're at, we see, like, the main teams so much that we don't see that much variety, actually, in terms of teams.
Right,
So
roster homogenization is a problem at a certain point. Yeah,
yeah, definitely.
Can I throw one out that you might have noticed, but might not be like remembering right now, or just like a community shout, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed like Segamaru?
Oh yeah.
Sego's good.
Segamaru is like the most unhinged player that I've seen in terms of like you can see what he's going for, but like it'll be a theory craft that like 99 out of 100 people would like chicken out and be like, there's no way that's worth trying or running.
I've seen some hilarious screenshots from his defense where someone just sends it to me and says, "Did he set the wrong team?"
When he finds the good team, though, right? So yes, you can always shit on it because some of the stuff he says is like, I don't even understand it. Then he finds that diamond in the rough, and that shit just becomes meta. He has set some of the craziest stuff where it's like, and then he sets that one, and you don't even know how to respond to it. I would call it the puzzle box of the puzzle box, as Fatal would talk about. So, yes, because we've plotted and schemed on him, and it's like, and then he sets this eyebrow-raising team where it's like, okay, and then it outperforms, right? It goes above and beyond what the expectation is, and it's like, how do I repurpose this and make this mine?
One thing I do is I tend to look at like Ken or Zach, who are cheesers, to see what they're getting like banner stripping with, right? Because they rely a little bit more on like stripping banners or just like stealing a couple.
Yeah.
So those are two. Not trying to pile on here. I'm just saying like
No,
those are
that's
guys
actually
I
high
tend to look
intel value. I mean, going into a more efficient meta, that's not unfair.
Yeah. So I like to just look at what people are stripping banners with, because if I can get you to like lose 3 to 5 banners on my team, that might be good enough.
All right.
Yeah, I find in that regard, like myself, Renee, and Zid all set pretty similar Ds overall. So I find that I do look at theirs as well, just because I like to kind of just compare where we're getting slight edges. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just pretty much coin flips at times when you're playing such a similar style.
Yes. Yeah, it gets tough that way, and that's the way I least like to play. Is if I'll usually follow what I feel is going to beat the particular opponent I'm fighting, but if I find that I'm doing the same thing over and over, I'll deliberately buck against it, because then I'm just setting myself up to get thrown by the next guy who's willing to change from that. Anyway, last couple here from Ibanek here for you, Cyrus. So it's hard to convey this tone over text, so clarifying the next couple of points are sent in spirited fun. But first, what do you do for a living to be able to maintain an account like yours? And are they hiring?
Well, I'm a lawyer / accountant, so I do both. I work for one of the biggest wealth management firms in Canada, so I got my CPA and my law degree, and I just basically I work with ultra high net worth individuals for tax planning specifically is my main area.
Nice. And now we know. So it sounds like a field you could probably get a job in if you were aspiring.
Yeah, they have lots of openings. Super easy job.
Yeah, you can just walk in off the street for that kind of thing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I was also involved in crypto in 2013, so that's helped as well. So
nice. Yeah, that probably did well. I'm sure that did. All right. Well, what keeps you drawn to the game? Like, as somebody with all of the shiny toys, there's no carrot for you to chase after. You know, what is it? What is it that keeps you motivated? Keeps you, tuned in to the game?
mod score.
Mod score only.
Legitimately, like at times, like obviously I say that in jest, but I talk with Chiss a lot about it. He's someone else that is also. I mean, the game goes through waves, obviously, where there's things to improve on your roster. Right now, there's very little for myself, so I mean, I like hoarding. I like resource hoarding, and just seeing numbers go up, as weird as that sounds. So, I mean, I do enjoy mod score. I enjoy, getting my droid brains to X amount, getting my arrows to 1,000, doing stupid stuff like that. I don't know. It's
you got to
fun
make your
little
own
things.
fun, yeah.
Yeah, it's things that no one else sees or cares about, but you find your own little targets that you work at, and other than that, a lot of it is just, actually like guild management stuff is typically what I spend most of my time on with a couple of people in Chromium, where we help coordinate the roster and figure out where we want to go and what targets to set and all that. So, yeah, I find that's usually what I put my time towards.
All right. And then the last one here for you. To be a top-end competitive GAC player takes a lot of commitment. TAS has always stated that at the top end of GAC, it works best to play the opponent, not the meta. Do you adhere to this tactic as well, or do you have a different approach when planning your boards?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more playing my own game. That's how I've always played this. When I've been playing a couple of these other accounts where it's harder for them to read me, like they don't necessarily have the same read on my account, I'll play a little different, and I'll try and change things up too. But on my main, I play pretty strict, and I live and die by it. So it is something. One of the nice things about it is that I don't get frustrated playing it, even though I know people find efficiency frustrating. But I've just purely played efficiency on this account, and if I lose by 2 banners, I tip my hat, and if I win by 2 banners, then that's just the way it goes. So I've just really I've played it for so long. It's just kind of how I enjoy playing the game. I know a lot of people complain. There's certain people that when I play them, they instantly will message me saying they hate playing me, but I enjoy it, and I don't tend to care too much if people hate it.
I mean, it's all within the game, right? People can bitch and moan. I bitch and moan about cheese all the time. But like, at the end of the day, it's playing to win, and it's a part of the game. And like, fucking,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I could be a salty little
the
shit.
whole time. I will complain the whole time I'm losing to people who said 2 GLs while I said 6.
Well, see,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like everybody likes to complain about cheese. It's not terribly inspiring is a play style, but like, yeah. But if you lose to it, I mean, okay, well, like you know, it can't be shit, and you lose to it, right?
It's less about it's less about shit than interest. But if I can ask, well, I know we're like about to wrap up, but you mentioned coin flips a few minutes ago, and I was kind of curious to the room here of accomplished professional efficiency players. How often do you run into a situation like that where, especially if it's like an efficiency mirror, how often are you butting up against things that are out of your control, possibly determining the outcome of a match?
That'll happen maybe once or twice over the course of the whole match.
That's actually a great question, though. I would actually like. That's actually a really great question. So Cyruss being that person who looks at the Zids, who looks at the Renees, and fighting that match. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's hard to say. If the times it happens, it sticks out a lot more. Um, yeah, I can't say off the top of my head. I mean, I can think of a couple specific times where just like the exact wrong thing happened on a turn where that cost you the match. It's hard to say.
So I want to
say
make sure I understand the question, Fatal, because and actually maybe what I'll do is try and answer, and you tell me if this is responsive. But like, because when I look at this, particularly when playing to win, sometimes you get a little bit of the urge to just want to try things, and it's just for the joy of it. But like, if really just optimizing for win, I totally look at the match through or formulation of my offensive plan at least from a risk management perspective, and then kind of going match by match, and there's the element like battle by battle, and then you really trying to again, if playing to win, and considerably more so if I'm facing like a Cyruss or somebody that I know is efficiency based. And then the so much of it goes into that bottom front decision making, right? Those are your least informed decisions, and then trying to risk manage that. And so when I feel best, if I'm really planning it for like victory and like thorough, like I've charted everything out, then I've tried to squeeze everything out and gotten down to a level of contingency where like, all right, there are like, maybe 3 squads in the back or 5 squads in the back, depending on which format it is. And I'll have like 6 variations of what that could be. And so I guess what I'm getting at, long-winded way of saying, like, sometimes what I'm doing, and like my mind just works this way, is like purely trying to squeeze risk out of it. And that's one of the reasons that occasionally, or maybe not occasionally, a decent amount of times, I come out of efficiency matches when I'm playing that way, really tight on banners, having less fun through the journey because I have not been doing stuff where it's like as much of a leap, and it's more calculated, it's more proven ground. Whereas like Segamaro is a great example of somebody that I used to like when I'd run into, and it's an old guild mate, that like the metaphor I'd use for playing Segamaro was he's off-roading. Playing Segamaro is going off-roading versus finding the clearest, most risk-reduced path. So that was my thought. Don't know if that's fully responsive, but
yeah. So sorry.
No, you go. You continue.
Well, I was just gonna say, like in 3v3, I play to one shot the board, so it's less about efficiency per se, and more about just I'm gonna give myself the best chance to win by one shotting and hope they fuck up. And it's not really a coin flip as much as it is the eye roll losing the 8 to 12% of a fight, where it's like, oh, my Empire lost to Leviathan, I guess that's the match, or something along those lines, right? Where it's like you lose that matchup that you're heavily favored in, but the 8 to 12% variance pops you. And that feels bad. But I mean, to be fair, you did set yourself up for that, I guess. But I mean, that does feel bad. But at the end of the day, it's like happened to you, didn't happen to them. Oh well.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I ask is because in my mind, if you're an efficiency player, you're saying I will get all the details correct, and essentially try to skill gap you out by like having a flawless offense and then punishing laziness on defense if I just like post banner attacks and you fail to account for it or maximize or whatever the fuck. But if whether I mean this is true for I would imagine for efficiency in general, but especially in an efficiency mirror. I mean, the easy finger point I would imagine would be like, right now in TW, Leviathan has variants, or like, even other fleet battles. I mean, I'm seeing bleed in results. I imagine, right? It's like I think Exec Nego can have like some bleed. So like when you're staking your game plan on this sort of like, okay, I'm going to be details oriented. The thing that always kind of eked me out, the reason why I prefer to play defense heavy is to try to like kind of mitigate these factors is like, are you ever just like running into efficiency mirrors where it's like, well, they one shot my Leviathan and I did one shot theirs, so cool. All right, like
I mean, that you see it most often, obviously, in fleets like you're saying, where we both set the same cheese fleets, right? And he gets the lucky, prof versus triple or whatever thing where you lose by 2 banners because he scores a 75, right? So that does happen, and it is frustrating to some extent, but it actually doesn't happen as often as you'd expect, even amongst an efficiency mirror.
Okay.
Like I've only like this year I've probably only had, I would say, like 7 or 8 matches that have ended within a couple banners, even with setting a pretty like light defense, right? So
Sure.
yeah, people trip on stuff, right? Like even efficiency players.
Yeah, it's
All jokes
devastating when they
aside,
do it.
all jokes aside, well, sort of joking, but it's like you said you only had 7 or 8 that were within a couple of banners. How many of the rest of those were Erodiums?
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Well, the Erodiums, yeah, those ones are a little bit bigger. But like even like last season, like I set a very light defense, but and I'm playing very good players, and like even people like say like a Barator or someone like that who I consider a very good player, like they'll drop 10 times on me. Like even though I set 1 GL, right? So it does happen. Like it happens a lot more than you would think.
Yeah, yeah. You're able to draw. You're able to apply good stress with your placements up front.
Yeah, it's all bottom front. Like that's basically like you look for the 5 or whatever amount of teams, right? That you can trip them up enough. That's really all you can do, and then just let the chips fall.
It also like it just works so well with that occasional blend, like using kind of an 80-20 rule. 80% of the time you'll set 1 GL, but if you don't, you're setting 3. And like that's got to be the back of the mind of the opponent. And it's like, oh God, I know I can get through this front wall, but there's a 1/5 chance that I'm going to be facing squads behind it that I just won't be equipped for if I overkill. So yeah, works.
And last season, every time I would set JMK and then also just Ray Nest, and like one of those teams, like when I did that switch up, would always trap someone because they'd expect something different. So
very nice. Well, guys, we have arrived at the end of the line. I mean, first, before we go ahead about the normal wrap-up procedure, Cyruss, thank you so much for joining us. It was a real pleasure having you. Did you have a good time? Enjoy yourself? Did you get some of the intel you were looking for? Because I know, like all of us, we one of the benefits to us doing this weekly is we get to pick off of each other for what we want to do in the week to come. So did you get some drop on the intel for next week?
I needed to brush up on things because I feel like I am underprepared for this week. I know that I'm going to be making some changes tomorrow morning in anticipation of lock. So
good.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be a mad dash there in the last 2 hours myself. So
Yep.
Yeah, no exception for the rest of you, I'm sure. All right. Well, You're welcome to stay here through the end of the wrap up, Cyrus, but if you got to drop off for any reason, of course, you're welcome to do that. But before I go ahead and do the rest of the wrap up, as the only other content creator part of the show here, Fatal, where can the folks find you? Where can they see you?
Twitch.tv/BugBookTV for GAC streams, usually in the last hour of the round. And YouTube.com/theplaybook for all previous content that I've made. And I think I'm gonna stop saying it, but possibly some stuff in the future.
You keep tantalizing me, and
I keep tantalizing it. I can't keep doing
waiting.
that because life keeps tantalizing me with, hey, you like these responsibilities, right? And I'm like, not. Yeah, thanks. I guess. Yeah, I love it.
Well, I did choose them anyway, and that'll have to be good enough.
But honestly, like, I kind of had a thought yesterday that I might actually just put out like a quick video on Balin talking about the mod situation, and like, it would not be the best like or flashiest first video to return with, but if that could just be like a tempo setter for like, I want to do some small form stuff on top of the usual big swings that I like to take.
Just to make the point about actually putting some effort into going to some like high offense bulk primaries, like just as a YouTube short, you could knock that out right quick.
I'm thinking the same thing, and so I would like to take a big swing for the first thing I put out, just as like a boom, hey, this is where the fuck I've been. But Balin's coming, and people are not prepared. Even if they think they're prepared, unless you're Cyruss, and he's probably prepared.
Yes.
But
after doing some modding today, I think I am prepared.
Fantastic.
I found some mods on characters that were a little egregious, so
Wildly inappropriate. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm real short on those. Like, I've gotta build up a bunch myself. But
dude, I just need to delete like 30 to 40% of my mod collection and just start fresh and go pure fucking snob. I think
it's got to be picky.
Coming.
It's got to be picky. They don't make it easy because I'm constantly needing to run through them just because of the same old inventory cap. So fair enough. Anyways, yes, that's where you can find Fatal. And, of course, if you want to see me live, I'm on twitch.tv/Tassinix. Of course, if you are watching the Plotting and Scheming podcast on YouTube, that is on my channel, Tassinix Gaming. Got some other great Grand Arena-focused content there that you might be interested in. Just recently put out my Datacron Set 17 video with Aesop Rock, one of the other very top players in the game, fellow guildmate, officer in my guild, all that other good stuff. But an amazing dude, an incredible resource, and that was a lot of fun to make that video. Also have the individual mod guide videos on characters and teams that you all have requested, so I am going to pick back up on that this week and put out some new videos, but that is there. And yeah, of course, I do upload all of my VODs from Twitch with chapters added for easy browsing, so the VOD might be 3 hours in length, but you don't have to spend that kind of time on it. Of course, this podcast is also available on Spotify, YouTube podcasts, and I do include the RSS feed link in each episode. So if you are an Apple Podcast listener, you can plug that in to Apple Podcasts and enjoy the show through there. Let's see. And aside from that, yeah, if you've enjoyed the show and you want to support what we're about over here, I do have a Cash App because you guys asked me to make one, so that is $Tassinix. But otherwise, you might consider signing up for the Patreon and get some benefits back your way. So check out patreon.com/Tassinix. For any upwardly mobile Grand Arena player, there is something there of interest to you. At $5 a month, you enter the Tass House. You get early access to the Plotting and Scheming podcast. The public release for the show is usually on Fridays. My patrons will be getting it, usually Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, depending on how cooperative uploads are being. But in addition to that, you also get the early access to the Datacron set videos and a dedicated text and voice channel on Discord where you can usually find me lurking if you want to pick my brain. Thank you so much to Andrew, Arj, Brock Thudsteel, Deadpool Cow 28, JJ's Productions Twitch, Jobin4527, Johnny B. Ottawa, Rays Malbus, Renee Bebe, Sam Vimes, Squed, Stark Strategy Gamer, Sweens14, White Wolf, and Zoltre. Moving up to the $10 a month is the VIP Access Plus, where you get the bundled Patreon to me and to OmegaBot. So if you watch my streams, I do that detailed scouting report through OmegaBot. Because it's the patron level, I'm able to pull greater than 2 weeks of history, get a comprehensive snapshot of my opponent's defensive and offensive tendencies. Absolutely love the tool. Thank you to Stryker and Esh Sotnikam for signing up for that. At VIP Access Premium, that is the Double Bot bundle, so Patreon access to me, to OmegaBot, and to Hot Utils, which is the premier tool for your mass inventory management and, quickly being able to switch between loadouts for TB, Grand Arena, Raid, what have you. Lots of other functionality baked into it, but fantastic stuff. Thank you to Quig, Ibanek, Sir Boss, Funky, and General Milan. And of course, at the top of the heap, Ingesters Club Elite, Nomad's Reaper, the one, the only, actually bona fide the largest account in the game. He will pop into my stream from time to time and drop, no joke, hundreds of subs, thousands of biddies, extraordinary support over the years. He just did a stunt like this just the other day at the end of the last 5 season. So thank you so much for all of the incredible support over the years, man. And of course, last but never least, gotta do our special thanks. First to Yoda Force, my guildmaster way back when I was in Vanguard. He bought me the mic I'm speaking to you on right now, and even though he has long since quit the game, we still remember him fondly from this side. To Mrs. T, my wife, thank you so much for all of your work in the background managing our incredibly rambunctious 6-year-old who has, gracefully figured out how to pillage the refrigerator in a matter of 2 minutes. Sorry, what?
Who let her be sick?
I know. How the years have flown by. How the time has flown by.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not 2 minutes that you leave this kid alone and she'll have the entire freezer gutted out onto the kitchen floor. So I'm really grateful for Mrs. T running interference while I'm trying to be halfway decent at a phone game. And of course, to my regular co-hosts here on Plotting and Scheming, Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, always a pleasure making the show with you. I know it's always a challenge, especially for those of us with kids or kittens, making availability on a weekly basis to produce the show. But we all learn from it. I know the community enjoys it. Thank you guys so much for being a part of it. All right. We'll come back over.
Thank you for putting up with my lack of internet because I don't know how choppy I was for this.
Actually, I would have said something. You know me well enough to know that if it was really just like, Mr. Robotoing the whole time, I really would have said something. So kudos to you because it did a pretty decent job most of the time, honestly.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah, all right. Well, anyways, guys, thank you so much again for the show, and of course everybody out there watching. It's going to be a fun first week of this 3 season, and until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.